What's up, honey?
Not too much, boo.
How are you?
I'm doing good. It was like a beautiful sunny day as we were setting up this camera and everything. It was actually
within 5 minutes.
yeah, it was actually like a gorgeous Sunday afternoon, and then as we were about to hit record on this thing, a wild storm cloud just rolled in. The sky got very dark. You're seeing all the plants in our backyard blowing around.
The wind is howling
pretty wildly, and I think we might have some fun going on behind us over the next hour, maybe. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually really liked last week's episode. I got to watch, especially like when I am editing and I'm going through in like quick motion, I got to watch it go from like beautiful sunny day to nighttime over the course of the hour. The sun like literally set while we were recording, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah, so now we'll see a storm maybe.
Yeah, so now you'll be able to put this in fast forward and watch a storm roll through too. We're basically just like recording the weather out here.
Speaking of episodes, I was thinking about it this morning. Oh, hi, Joy.
Hey, Joy.
I was thinking of it this morning as I was getting ready for this.
She never like is around. She never wants to be around unless like she can get attention.
Yeah. And then even like when we want to have like sex, she like wants to show up. It's like, get out of here.
She wants to show up and then just like stare at us in the eyes. All right, Joy. All right.
Stop trying to steal the show. But did we hit episode 20?
Not yet, no. I think next week will be 20.
Really?
Yes.
I feel like forever we've now been saying it.
Yeah, I know. I think this is going to be 19 and then the next one's 20. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's a big milestone. I've been saying.
Yeah, and 1%. Next week we'll talk about of who like we're going to have our first guest and stuff for the 20th. Cool. Perfect.
All right.
But I think we started all our episodes the past few weeks or recent episodes with how's your week been? Because it's been like this
a roller coaster ride. Yeah, my week.
So how's your week been?
My week this week was great. Actually, well, it was great. It was great. Coming out of the worst week of my life, and I mean the worst week of my life in terms of like my personal mental health.
Yeah.
I can't think of a time where I was worse than that. I don't think so. I mean, maybe last year around the time where the gym stuff was kind of not working out, I was in a pretty bad place, but like I wasn't having the physical manifestation of it that I did last week, which we talked about last episode. So if you don't know what we're talking about,
turn the page.
I was having some really terrible panic attacks to the point where I thought I was dying. It caused me to be debilitated, something that I've never thought I never thought I would experience. I never thought I was capable of experiencing. I thought I was stronger than that. I thought I had more control over myself than that. And it was outrageously scary, difficult to go through. And then I took a very large mushroom dose, thanks to young Poozle, considered me to, or I should say convinced me to do...
Not convinced, because
you
I basically was like,
suggested
you're ready.
It. Yeah, you suggested it, did it, had an awesome experience with that, and then like literally overnight got to the bottom of what, the blockers that I was imposing on myself, and was able to kind of get to the root of it and rewire my brain. And this week was like night and day compared to last week. And that's not to say that at certain points I didn't feel little wells of emotion building up in me, but it was more it felt more like gratitude than sadness. And it felt like more like happiness than anything else. And even when I did, it was really easy to just like breathe, be present for a moment, do like a mini meditation, and then like move on. So it was a productive week. It was a really fun week. We did a lot of really fun things, both throughout the week and over the last couple of days for the weekend. And what else was I going to say? I think like one of the biggest testaments to it was that yesterday, so last week I was having trouble like even getting off the couch to do work. Like I was like almost debilitated. And yesterday, it was Saturday morning, and I woke up and I really didn't anticipate doing work first thing in the morning. I had a client that I was going to go train a little bit in the later morning, so I was kind of like going to wake up and have an easy breakfast, drink a cup of coffee, put on a podcast or something, and like chill down here. And I kind of like got out of bed.
Yeah.
I checked my phone. I had a couple emails, and I was like, I'll just like pop over to my desk and just like clear this up really quick before I even came downstairs. I think I went right to my desk, knocked out like 30 or 40 minutes worth of work, completely frictionless. Like I almost didn't even like notice that I was doing the work. I was just like being really present,
like in the zone with
enjoying it, like having some fun with it. And then I like came downstairs, had breakfast, and I was like, wow, I just got like a lot of work done that I was not expecting to get done, and I barely even noticed that I was doing it. Which was very different than last week, where every stroke of the keyboard was like fucking with my head. So I go like I was like I'm not even joking. Like last week, I was sitting at the computer, just like unable to move my fingertips to like do the work. It was terrible. So like going from that,
and it was like what's so funny is like it's the same exact work, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So yeah,
of course
so
it is.
it's like,
but that's because
like you were in such a different state.
Yeah.
That you were like, this is too much. And like yesterday, like again, you like woke up and just flowed and like got your work done, and then like didn't have to do any work the rest of the day. You can pretty much like enjoy besides your client, but like again, that's not.
But that's because it's a matter of perspective. It's the way I was looking at it. I was looking at it in terms of like fear-based, gotta get this done, have to stay on top of things, gotta like, do this or else I'm gonna fall behind on my plan. And this week it was a lot more like, I get to do this. And in fact, this was your idea. Yeah, this was your idea.
Yeah. I changed my, like on my whiteboard from like my to-dos to my get-tos. So like I get to do this, and like I have to get to it, like on like my tasks.
Yeah.
And so I put that on my whiteboard, and I showed you last night.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's how I'm going to start when I do my PEDs this morning. Like that's what I'm going to put on the top of my list. And it's that shift in that mindset of like, because the to-do is like that pressure you're putting on yourself, and it's like, okay, like I have all this I have to do. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's really shifting that mindset.
Yeah.
And the perspective.
I mean, like at the end of the day, it's a pretty like small change, but like every little thing that you do to shift your perspective does help. It seems a little bit corny. It seems like silly. It seems irrelevant, but if every day, if I'm talking about my get-tos versus my to-dos, and like that compounds tremendously over time, and it really does just make even the slightest shift in perspective. And I think like as the last week demonstrated, like that shift in perspective is all the difference.
Yeah, it's like the shift in perspective. It's the shift in like how you say something, what you're putting out there, how you're framing like your life and what you see it to be. And yeah, it's all about, again, what you're saying. It's very powerful.
Yep.
So.
And again, it was a great week, super productive week. Got so much done, and like because I was freed up doing some of the work that we were doing this week for our business and for the couples coaching, building out like a lot of our marketing and language that we're going to be using, and even like our consultation deck. It was all like fun and flowing, and we came up with so many awesome ideas and like ways to frame what it is that we're offering, that like there's just that it's almost like some of the stuff that was boiling up in me was a lot of like that really good creative stuff, but like I was so
stuck in like the systems.
Stuck in the system stuff and stuck in like fear-based mindset that stuff wasn't able to come through me. And I feel like in some ways, like through the crying last weekend, which I said I like cried quite a bit, and through that cathartic psychedelic experience, and then the breathwork experience, and on top of it, like a lot of good, social interactions and loving social interactions that we've had in that period of time. Meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
It's like that truly did unblock me. It unblocked those ideas and that creativity to flow through me, because we were throwing out like so much good stuff this week, and it all just like made sense and stuck and was just perfect for what we're looking to provide. So I think there's a lot to be said for that too.
Yeah. And like, you were definitely more relaxed this week. when we were or laying down, and you had those, like, you were like, oh, I feel something. And I was like, are you good? And you're like, yeah, it's not that fear-based thing. It's like this overwhelming feeling of gratitude. Like I almost want to like cry tears of joy.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's that like release of that emotion and all that like pent up energy that now you've been able to release creatively.
Yeah.
So it's been a great week for you for sure.
Just as an aside, as we're setting
Keep the
up
legs
here,
in.
I'm realizing like I am on camera, I'm always all leg. So I need, at least in the last few ones that we've been doing from our home without the desk, I'm
need a
all
blanket.
leg. So she said I need to put a blanket on my lap like FDR. And then people are going to think, is Jared in a wheelchair? Is Jared like hiding polio?
That was a good joke. Go ahead. Oh my gosh.
And then again, like not just last week, but it's Sunday now.
Yeah.
So far, we've had a really awesome weekend, a really nice weekend with a lot of fun things and fun people and fun friends. That, again, it's kind of hard to not be grateful and not be happy and not be present and enjoying ourselves. So, yeah, that's where we're at now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we just had a photo shoot for myself and my friend Julia Dars. We're doing, you did the photos for us, so thank you for that.
Of course.
But yeah, we're going to be hosting a retreat, or like I'm co-hosting a retreat September 21st.
Which is
a couple
really
weeks
cool.
after we get back from Italy on numerology. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know
How this
How
came about.
it
Yeah, I
came
know.
about.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, last year we did a couple events. We
Yeah.
did our True
Workout.
Fitness workout and meditation in the park, which was, I think, like a really awesome success. And of course, that's when we were leading up to opening a gym
Yes.
technically at that point. So that's kind of what that was. And those we
God.
stopped doing them because
Yeah.
that fell apart.
Yeah.
And then we did our fast, which
That
was
was a great
another
event.
event that we did, which again, like I was shocked with how many people signed up and went through it. I don't think we've ever talked about this on the podcast,
Probably
but
not,
at the
yeah.
beginning of this year, we did what we called an 84-hour fast fest, where we had the year prior, the first weekend of 2023. Katelyn and I did a 84-hour fast. So it's like 3.5 days where you don't eat anything. All you do is drink water and salt. So a salt and water only fast for 3.5 days. And that was like one of the first things that like we really documented on Instagram, actually.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So we documented that. A lot of people seemed kind of interested in it. So
People were like, "Oh yeah, I've done that before. I've done this," and like
or
definitely.
I would want to do that, or
Yes.
let me know the next time you
Yeah.
do it. So we were just sort of like, okay, maybe this time we'll do it again at the beginning of the year, and we'll see if anybody wants to join. And we had almost 70 people sign
Yeah.
up for it. I think about 40 people started it, or like made a real effort that we could verify at least. And then something like 17 people, I think 16 or 17 people actually like completed the full 3.5 days. And throughout it, we had events, and we broke it with a big breakfast, a break fast party here at our house.
Yeah, and everyone brought something. It was a little
Everybody brought
potluck
something.
kind
It
of
was
thing.
like a really cool event. So like those are really the only
and like people that like we didn't even know were like part
Yeah.
of it. They signed
Yeah.
up through, what did we use, like
Posh. Yeah.
And like, yeah, but some of the events, people were like showing up and we're like, "Oh, hi. Like,
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on, join our yoga." Like,
Yeah.
we were just like wanted activities, just help people like keep their mind off of it, keep them distracted. Did like some like light yoga and breath work in the park.
And those went well. And then again, then we, from a business perspective, had to make a lot of shifts. So the events kind of fell to the side.
Yeah.
But like, it's honestly like incredible how just from like the beginning of this year to now we're at the end of July.
Yeah.
Like, we've gone from a place where we've been coaching, or I've been coaching.
Yeah.
You haven't really been coaching in like a professional sense, but outside of like any professional true like client coach relationship, you've been coaching so many people through their trials and tribulations. You coached me through my crisis that I was going through last week, and it's like just seeing you. I've talked about this almost in every episode in the last like couple months, but like seeing you step into that role in a pretty remarkable way. Like first off, it's impressive, and I've said it's inspiring, and it's just like amazing to watch. But also, it like just leads more credence and certainty that the route that we're going right now is exactly where we should be.
Yeah.
But then like on top of it, it's like you're having people come to you to like do these events with you, and it's like, all of a sudden you're going to be co-hosting a numerology event like out of nowhere. Like a year ago you didn't even like have anything to do with numerology,
and I had nothing to do with like coaching. I didn't even think of myself that way, and it kind of like naturally came into it and like
I started to think
about it, and I originally was just thinking like,
I was going to say you started to think of yourself that way.
Yeah, and I like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like I saw myself like as I've evolved and like had this wisdom and my tools and the growth that I've had and like the things I've learned, I now understand it, and I can see it in people when they're going through it, and I can sympathize with it, and I understand it, and I'm able to give that feedback. And I've had multiple now friends, when they're talking to me, they're like, you say exactly what I need you to say. You say the truth. You say it so clearly. And I know it's coming from like a place of love. Like you deliver the truth, the harsh truth, very softly. Like, I think that's like what people need.
That's what everybody needs, yeah.
And so, yeah, Julia was like wanting to host this event, and I had a great experience with the numerology. I mean, that was a breakthrough for me.
You talked about that a lot.
I mean, yeah, I absolutely loved it. And she wanted to do this event, and she was like, I want you to host it with me. And I was like, okay, like, sure, like, let's do it. And Julia is amazing. She is creative and has all these ideas, and we were just joking about it today at the photo shoot. She's creative. She has all these things she wants to do. And then I sit there with like the pen and paper, and I'm like the structure, and I'm the order. And that's works though for us because she has all these things she wants to do. And my first thing was like, okay, what's the date?
Yeah.
How many people? Like, let's start like strategizing.
She's
like,
the idea
yes.
woman, and she does a great job of it.
So
and
good.
And it like literally just like explodes out of her.
It does. We were sitting there, and she was already thinking of more things to add to. I'm like, okay, let's focus on. Like,
and then like having that structure is and she's like admitted that is something that she needs. And in a lot of ways, like I think our relationship is like that in some ways too.
I think any good relationship and partnership.
I'm probably.
Oh, sorry, there's thunder.
Oh, great! Now there's gonna be thunder and wolf barking. The thunder, but I would say I'm at my core like I'm an idea guy. I'm a creative guy, and I like to like orchestrate things and go like, okay, like so here's the components. Here's how we have to get it done. Like coming up with a plan, but like I don't like to be the one who actually has to like do all the nitty gritty like little tasks, and that's where
I'm a taskmaster. You tell me what, and I'm gonna like put it together.
And like in my life, I've had to, of course, and like the way I run my business, for example, like I have to do a lot of that stuff. But like in our relationship, like I'm definitely like idea guy. We've got something we discussed, and you're like the implementer. And I think that like you and Julia work very similarly in that capacity.
Yeah, but again, I think that's with any great partnership and relationship, like there has to be that balance.
Yeah.
You can't have like just a bunch of creative, because like creative usually like is like more the chaotic kind of thing. So you need that order. You need that structure.
And so Julia is gonna at least the plan is that she'll be on the episode next
Number
week.
20.
We'll be interviewing her because she's got an amazing story.
Yes.
She's from Belarus. She came over here to the United States, I don't know, maybe roughly 15 years ago, 10 to 15 years ago, but she was the Arnold Classic bikini champion back in I think 2017 or 2018.
Yeah.
So
talk about manifestation.
Yeah, and she like truly like manifested that out of thin air. She's got a great story. And she's also just like a really fun, cool person.
And such like a great friend, great coach, has so much value to provide to people. And like that's what her mission and her purpose is to like help people find their mission and their purpose. And through
clearly,
numerology, she does it, and she does it beautifully. Like she was sitting today, we were talking, and she said, like, being able to see everyone I work with just grow like day after day with like the information I give them is just like fills her cup.
Yeah.
It makes her so happy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, she's like, I feel like I'm watching like a movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a great feeling.
Yeah. And she's, and you can like just sense that that's like truly like how she is. So she'll be here next week. We'll hear from her story, and then you guys can talk. I'll interview both of you about the retreat and what that's going to look like. Because even just like being a part of that photo shoot today,
Wolfie, stop.
Being a part of that photo shoot today and like watching you guys collaborating and coming up with ideas, and then of course I had to like get in there and go, well, guys, what about this? What about that?
You're like, I have some ideas too.
I got some thoughts here. If you guys are willing to have my input, and like just watching you guys do that, I was like, okay, this is going to be a pretty cool event, and
for sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with.
Yeah, and it's just, I'm very proud of myself and like
you should be.
My growth and the strength that I have to do this. And even after your psilocybin journey last week, we've obviously talked about it with friends. I now have had friends say like they want me to do that for them. They feel like they're ready for that. They're going through some tough things and they're doing all the right stuff. They're seeing the therapist. They're having the crucial conversations. They're journaling. They're doing everything, but there's these blockers that they have. There's something, they know what is needed, but there's like all this like head shit that's like holding them back from actually doing it. And I'm a true believer that if you're willing, psilocybin will help you break down those blockers. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother avenue that I would love to venture down. Yeah. And doing, like, be a facilitator, help people with psilocybin, because that's the only thing that I'm aware now of, this, that I've done. And I just know the benefits of it, and how wonderful it is.
And speaking of all of that, leading into more about psilocybin and events and
your dinner
and I guess like events that we're putting on. This week I also hosted the Feast and Fellowship dinner at Pershing, which this is the second time that we've had it. We hosted it again this week, and again it's a Jeffersonian dinner where I lead a conversation table of this time it was I think like nine guys total, so anywhere between like 8 to 12 dudes having a delicious meal, because again I can't not say it, the food at Pershing is always great. Had a delicious meal. We have a single topic of conversation for the dinner. Everybody participates. One person speaks at a time. You share your perspective. You gain new perspective. And the conversation this week was around mental wellness, which of course is a topic close to my heart. It's also
and you bring the topics.
Yeah, I'm the one who I curate the topics. And then I lead the discussion. That's the cool thing, is like I'm not like expected to do anything else except just like bring the topics and lead the discussion.
I don't have to get too heated. I
really don't have to market it all that much. I don't have to cook. I don't have to invite people. I can invite people, but I don't have to. So like it's literally like a perfect scenario for me personally. And it was a great meal and a really, you can imagine, like open and quite vulnerable conversation around mental wellness. And we had the pleasure of having a gentleman who I just met. His name is Justin Lepre. Co-host the dinner with me. He runs he's a veteran and a first responder. He was a fireman here in Austin. He had obviously like some pretty traumatic experiences from those positions. His story, and this, again, like this is what the story that he tells, was that he attempted suicide back in 2018. The only reason it didn't happen was because like somebody had unloaded his firearm that he was gonna use to kill himself. And then he found psilocybin. It obviously transformed his life and his mind in a remarkable way. And then he opened a church that offers these like retreats, these psilocybin and otherwise.
Like my kind of church.
Yeah, right. He opened a church.
I've already got a connection with God. I want this one.
And they worked initially with veterans and first responders to help them overcome their traumas, and then now it's like a broader audience base. And there were some gentlemen at the dinner, in fact, who also had gone through his ceremonies, and the stories they were telling were remarkable. I mean, like one guy said that he had basically like drank every day of his adult life. He for years wanted to stop drinking, but he just like kind of couldn't bring himself to do it. And it wasn't
an addict.
He was an addict, but he also was kind of like, I don't want to do it, but like he also just like couldn't find. It was almost like he didn't have like enough of a reason not to.
Like
or
enough
something
leverage,
like that.
kinda?
Yeah, I guess like not enough leverage. He wanted to stop. He said he tried everything, and he just like couldn't bring himself to do it. And then he had this experience, the psilocybin experience, and he basically said like he envisioned himself as a little child. Mm-hmm. And what he also said is like, if I had gone to therapy and a therapist had told me like, you don't love yourself, that's why you're drinking like this, he would go like, fuck you, I love myself. Like, look at me, like, look at what I've accomplished. I'm successful, I'm wealthy, I'm this, I'm that. And he's like, then when I did the experience, I saw myself as a child, and I was like, basically had the thought that if I loved a child, would I be pouring liquor down its throat every single day? And he said immediately he just like hasn't had the urge to drink ever since. Because he realized he realized it really is about self-love. And like that is why it was a lack of self-love that he was doing that. And he said like he hasn't drank since, and he hasn't wanted to drink since. And I think like that's kind of, again, like especially after what I experienced last week, it's like I totally get that to some extent. As wild and crazy as that sounds, like that's the power of like that kind of medicine, I guess.
For sure.
And so everybody was like really being open and vulnerable at this dinner.
And I think something also just to note is like the mature crowd that it drew.
Yeah, it was.
And like, what, probably 45 to 55 was their age?
For the there was a couple guys that were probably in their 30s there, but for the most part, like I would say the median age was probably like 50 or so, and honestly. Like,
and like that's just what is beautiful about like this event, especially like with the topic, is a group of like grown, successful men talking about like mental health. Yeah. Because like mental health is like, especially for men, I feel like is like type you don't really want to talk about. Because like if you're having an issue with mental health, like it's a weakness or portrayed as a weakness.
That's pretty much how I started the conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's just really speaks to like the power of like a conversation like that. Yeah. And people being able to be there and be vulnerable and talking. Yeah. Because everyone's going through it. People are just hiding behind it.
And the first conversation that we had at this dinner, the last time was about masculinity, and a lot of the people at the table were my friends as well. So it was kind of like it was like a kind of more like fluid, some like having fun, like laughy conversation. There was a lot of seriousness to it as well, and everybody was being like really intentional with the conversation, but it was also like a little looser and a little bit like different. This was like really mature, really honest. It was actually like pretty, like I was like kind of taken aback with how like real it got, like real fast. And I like maybe that made a couple people at the table uncomfortable. I don't know, but like that's kind of, and I'm sure it did, but like that's, I don't know, like to me that's like kind of cool, like that we were able to come to a table and like have a discussion like that. So I guess like part of the story is to say that like I'm gonna have coffee with Justin this week. I'm really looking forward to like continuing to connect with him because his story is amazing. The organization that he's running seems like really amazing, and I would love to see if there was a way for like you to kind of like me to introduce you both, and like since that's something that you want to do more of. And
just not even like, just maybe even just to like learn from him and like the community and the people that
for sure
he helps, and
or just like help facilitate at one of the
or just
events
be
or
like
something.
at the event and like supporting in some way. One of my friends who was asking me to do it for her, She was like, do you have to get certified for it? And I was like, it's illegal in Texas. So like, I don't think there's any certification. I'm sure like in Colorado or something.
Well, there's religious exemptions.
Okay. So yeah, that's how it gets around it.
Yeah.
So I think it's all about like
I'm just going to check the time.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think it's all about like the energy that you bring to it and like the calmness you bring to it and the love that you bring to it. I don't really struggle with, I can sympathize with the person. I can understand what the person's coming from, and I don't let their energy really affect me too much. Like more so like for you, like you struggle like being more like an empath.
Yeah.
And like for me, I'm like, I feel like I'm able to separate myself from that and still be there for them for it.
Yeah. You don't like let it soak into you the way
Yes.
that I let it like soak into
For
me.
sure. You're like, I feel like I'm feeling like the pain of the world today. And I was like, I mean, I get that, but I'm like, but you also like, you gotta, yeah, you're like, you do struggle with that.
I know.
But you're just a sweetie, that's why.
So I guess, yeah, the dinner went great. I'm going to meet with Justin. I'm going to hopefully be able to introduce the both of you. And
Yeah.
I feel like you could probably learn a lot from him. And
Sure.
And it would be a really good opportunity for you.
Yeah, I'm excited. But speaking of your dinner and like mental health.
Oh, yeah. And I was honest.
Fix your shorts, sorry. Thighs are coming out. The thighs are
All
here.
leg. All leg.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I was like, again, like speaking of like mental wellness and mental health, I guess I was vulnerable too in admitting the story that I admitted on the podcast last week. Again, like to a group of guys like I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, I think like that helped open up the rest of the conversation at the table to some extent. But yeah, I mentioned the struggles that I went through the last couple of weeks, the panic attacks, and the just like, you know, how rough it was. And then I also mentioned the psychedelic experience that helped me clear it up.
Yeah. Now that's the second time you've used panic attack just in this episode. And I kind of like want to call you out on some stuff you've said in the past on this episode, on this current one. You've like never understood people who suffered from anxiety and suffered from panic attacks.
I would never say I didn't understand them.
Okay, so what would you say?
As far as what?
About people that struggled with panic attacks.
What would I have said in the past?
Yeah.
I would say it's all in your head.
Okay. So like now all of a sudden now you're identifying of having these panic attacks. Like what's different?
I don't identify as having panic attacks.
You're saying that you had panic attacks.
I have experienced a panic attack.
Okay. All right. So you're saying you've
I
experienced
don't have them.
Okay.
They're not mine.
Okay. So you experienced them. So how would you change what you would say then about panic attacks and about anxiety?
To somebody who is having a panic attack, I mean, I don't know if like my opinion of it changes all that much. It is in your head. It is a matter of you not understanding or being willing to come to terms with why you're afraid. And it causes physical manifestations. I was incapable of controlling myself last week and incapable of controlling my body and my mind, which again is like tough for me to admit, but like it is the case. And like, yeah, I don't think my opinion has changed that much. Like in the past, I would have said like, if you're having a panic attack, you need to have mainly two things. You need to like be able to become present, and you need to be able to switch from a fear-based mindset to a love-based mindset, and that happens through gratitude. And you have to be able to do those two things. And like that was exactly what I was missing last week.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that I have changed my understanding or belief of what a panic attack is or what somebody who is experiencing a panic attack needs to fix or address. I would say that I was just in that place. Like I was being not present.
Yeah.
I was fear-based, and I was incapable of, on my own, using just my own resources that I have available to me without the psychedelic experience and the psilocybin to help like really confront it. I don't know if it was a matter of me not being willing. I don't think it was me not being willing, but it was me not being able to clearly, introspectively dig deep enough to truly understand how I was causing that pain to myself.
For sure.
Like, so, and I'll say something else, which is like, after the really big one that I had that caused me to walk out of the gym, and that was like, again, the worst, one of like the most shocking, worst, saddest, heartbreaking moments of my life because I let myself down.
Yeah.
That was enough for when you called me to say like, let's do a bunch of mushrooms tonight. I was like, yes, I will.
Yeah.
Like I immediately will. There's no question that I will, because like I am not trying to run from this thing.
Correct.
I am trying to grasp it. It's not, and it's also like I wasn't not trying to be present. Throughout every moment of last week, I was like breathing. I was trying to do some breath work. I was doing meditations. I was just doing all kinds of stuff to try to like ground myself and bring myself to the current moment and not have my mind running in 1,000 different places. And again, like, that's with me meditating every single day.
And
I wasn't able to pull it in. So like, if somebody else who isn't meditating every day and doesn't even know how to bring themselves to the present moment on a regular basis, which again, like I'm very good at doing, like I would have been even more of a wreck.
And like, that's the other thing is, I wonder if, like, because you had such a strong mindfulness practice, you were able to see yourself like almost as a third party at the times where your body was like having those moments.
Yeah.
You were able to, like, that higher self was still like, hey, no, like, don't do that. Remember, like, we want to be here.
Yeah.
And like, so you were really struggling with that, but like, because you had that mindfulness practice, like, you were able to keep like stay above it as much as possible. And I think the people who don't have a mindfulness practice kind of just live in that constant world of anxiety that they don't know anything different. They're like, this is all there is, I guess. This is how my current state should be all the time.
It's like I'm like drowning and I'm like getting my head above water just for like a couple seconds, but I feel like maybe a lot of people just like live below water.
That's
or like exist below water.
Feel like
okay, but I think you're right. So like, I was doing my best to be present, but like it wasn't working. I was also doing my best to be grateful. I kept bringing myself back to like, you should be grateful.
And you kept verbalizing it.
I kept saying it out loud. Like, I have so much to be grateful for. Like, there's so much good happening right now. These other things that are causing me stress, like they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Like there's no, and then, so I was like saying it, but I guess I just like simply wasn't believing it, or I didn't have enough true understanding of what was happening in my mind to cause me to be pulled underwater like that.
Yeah.
So, but once you said, let's do mushrooms, I was like, well, that's at this point, even though that sounds scary, and it doesn't normally sound scary. The idea of doing that kind of mushrooms doesn't normally sound scary, but it does sound scary, especially after the week before in Marfa, when I did a little bit of mushrooms and I got scared because my mind was in a bad place.
Exactly.
So I knew my mind was in a bad place, which meant that when I did a big macro dose, it was gonna like be a wild situation.
Yeah, it was gonna show you like kind of exactly what you needed though at that time.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, like let's do that. And then we've talked about before on the last episode, when I laid down and put the blindfold on, I started just seeing like all the cool mushroomy laser light stuff. And I said immediately, I just said, enough with the light show, let's get to it. Because like, I wasn't there for the pleasantries. I wasn't there for like the fun, cool mushroom experience. I was there to like see the demon. And like, as soon as I said that, guess what? Like that demon popped up, and then it took me 20 minutes to have a conversation with it and work through it.
Yeah.
And again, like, I'm not saying that this isn't going to happen again, or that I'm not ever going to be able to experience that again, or that demon, that Kraken creature I mentioned last week isn't going to like rear its ugly head again. Mm-hmm. But at least now I have a little bit more perspective on it, first and foremost. And it was because I realized, like, no, this is something that needs to be confronted head on, and it's like certainly not something that you can run from. And I think like the bad trips that last a really long time and are like really scary are the ones where you're resisting that demon, as opposed to like looking at it, talking to it, and then like figuring out like how do you relieve the pressure of, like, or in my case it was like, how do I relieve the pressure of this thing? It's all in my head. So like, I don't take back anything that I would have said previously about what panic attacks are or what anxiety is. I don't. I just succumbed to it.
Yeah. So do you have something else to say to that?
I don't think so.
So that to me sounds very much like human shit.
Sure.
Or human being shit.
Yeah.
Like, and you have said on times like, I'm not human. I don't deal with like the head shit and the human shit that people deal with. But like, that is like truly being a human being the past few weeks that you've had. So
yeah.
What do you have to say to that
So
one?
maybe there I was wrong.
I mean.
So maybe there I was wrong, because I say like I am my higher self. I am the spirit that I guess like animates this material being, my body and my brain, because my brain is my body, and my mental and thinkiness. You think that that's different from your body, but that's all the same thing. But then there's your spirit, your soul, your higher self, your whatever you want to call it, that's higher than that. And that's the thing that's connected to source. And I was saying, yeah, I'm not a human. I'm that higher thing, because this stuff is human and this stuff like dies and goes away. But that other thing lives on forever. And I'm starting to maybe readjust my understanding of that slightly to essentially realize that like, yeah, I am that higher thing, but I am actually like very much attached to this. And this
the power of that mind is like so
like,
strong.
I can't say that this stuff isn't me too. This stuff is me, at least in the present. This stuff is me as much as that higher self is. And they're all like obviously interconnected, and they're all like they do all three parts make up me, as opposed to like me thinking I was just that spirit and that this was like maybe more of like an illusion.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an illusion. Yeah, like it is an illusion. It's the way that we understand it to be, but like this is me too.
Yeah.
I guess this body. So I said I'm not human, and I am. I'm like the spirit and the human, I guess, like combined.
Yeah.
Which maybe a few months ago I didn't necessarily want to admit.
Yeah, and I think it's okay because like, yeah, you need to be obviously in the physical world and in the body, but like if you have control and understanding of the mind and the body, then you're connected with your soul.
But I also said, like, I literally said on a few episodes ago that I felt like my body, I was being ripped between energy and matter. I felt like my spirit was like trying to pull away from like this material part of me. And I think that like,
and I think that's where extent, like that maybe increased your risk, like the anxiety that you were experiencing.
Yeah, maybe
because you were like constantly struggling.
Yeah.
Where like now you have an understanding of like, oh, this is all connected.
Yeah.
I need to keep my body and my mind in check though, because if I don't and I become obsessed with it's getting sunny again.
Yeah.
Getting obsessed with like the possessions and the things I want and desire and need, that's when you get pulled down into like that really ego body driven life, which is not necessarily like the best life.
And like as I'm even like explaining this, like I know it sounds like kind of wild and kooky and strange, and I also know that like I'm not making the most sense because like I'm still making sense of it. I still clearly don't truly understand like who we are or what we're all doing here. I just have a sense of it, but like I do think that like all those like weird feelings I was having are intrinsically linked. Like thinking that, okay, no, I am this higher self. I'm not human. Feeling like I'm being pulled into energy versus matter. Saying that I'm not human. Like a few months ago on the podcast, one of the first episodes, I said I'm in a state of like no fear.
How would you say that now?
Yeah, like clearly not. And at the time, I said, I know I will experience fear again. I said that. So it's not like I was like, I'll never be afraid again.
Yeah.
But like, I said how weird it was to be in such a state where I was completely, I was like genuinely fearless.
Yeah.
And I was like, this feels weird. And then I was like, and then I'm afraid. And then my mind starts to go, well, aren't you afraid that you're not afraid? And then we said, like, your mind's just, like, supposed to be afraid. And I said, like, but what I did say is, like, I can't wait to see what happens when I am afraid next time because, like, I'm sure I'm going to, like, crush it. And, like... I mean, listen, it crushed me temporarily.
Okay, just as long as you... I was about to say it, but I didn't want to say that.
It did crush me temporarily.
Yeah, temporarily.
But, like, I was going through it for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Month. At a maximum, we could say 2 months, but really it was like a few weeks.
Yeah.
At the max. And like, because of my practices that I perform on a regular basis, and like, I'm going to start like talking highly of myself for a minute. Like,
that's okay.
Because of the practices that I do.
It's okay to love yourself.
I know.
And like.
So here I go loving myself.
Yeah, it's okay to love yourself.
Because of like my ability to push myself through hard things, like with my workout. Because of my mindfulness practices with meditation, because of my gratitude rituals, and because of the my goal setting and purpose driven practices that I have, and like visualization practices that I have, those things allowed me to be in a situation where the water's getting really rocky, and rather than being like in a canoe that capsizes and then it gets broken into a billion pieces, we'll call it a warship. My warship is, getting thrown around a little bit, but like it right sizes and stabilizes really quickly because of all that work that I did. And again, going back to my willingness to go, dude, like, time to take a bunch of mushrooms and like go see the bad guy. Like go fight the big boss. Because if that's what it comes down to, then like, that's what we're gonna do to fix this, as opposed to going, not tonight. I don't know, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. Let me just like see if I can get through this. It's like, no, like there is no see if we can get through this.
Yeah, because you've had the other tools, you have the other things you've been doing, and it's not doing the job.
And again, it got to a point that I never thought that I would ever experience. So I was saying that I can't wait to see what happens when fear rears its head, because I think I'm going to crush it. And like, it certainly won a couple battles, but like, I would like to think that I won. I'll say this: I at least won the last battle.
Yeah.
Right. Like I at least won a good big monumental battle last week, and there haven't been any battles since. So does that mean that I won the war? We'll see. Like, at some point in the future, there will be another battle, I'm sure. But like, for the time being, it seems like the war has subsided and we have a little bit of a ceasefire. So like, I would say I did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
That's all I can really say. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you for sure. And with this last battle and any battles that come in the future, you have now the knowledge and the journey that you went through to now know, like in the future, like when something starts coming up, you're able to recognize it probably a little bit sooner and understand it, and not probably push it down and be like, I need to just keep like pushing through and doing this and this. Like maybe now it's like, okay, this reminds me of something that happened like a couple months ago. That's
what wisdom is. It's
Yeah.
experience.
Exactly.
Experience.
Wisdom is applied knowledge.
Applied knowledge, I would say, like, generally, like, through experience and understanding, like, what you've been through before.
Yeah.
And, like, now that I've done that, like, now I have even more tools in my tool belt.
Exactly.
To leverage it in the future, or to battle it in the future. So, and then I used this analogy with you
Are you gonna
a few weeks ago.
Okay, that was because you
yeah,
keep talking about like the water
last
and
week.
stuff.
Can you check that real quick?
Yeah. We are at 53.
Cool. The analogy that I was using is, it's like if you're a person and you're standing on a beach and the ocean is life and the universe and like your experience here. Like there's waves, like big waves, like crashing on the ocean, on the shore. And you're standing at the shore, and like your goal is to like go out and experience as much of that ocean as you can experience. Like what you could, and of course, like the ocean is rocky and it's treacherous at times, and there's storms that brew, and there's all the stuff that happens in the ocean. You could drown out there. You could get eaten by a shark. You could float out there like merrily and happily and experience all that there is, all the wonders that the ocean has to offer as well. It's like if you're on the shore, you could do a few different things. The number one thing you could do is just like throw yourself in the water, let the ocean have its way with you, carry you out to sea. You have no tools or skills or ability to actually like stay afloat or counteract any kind of like rough wave activity that might be out there. So you just kind of like go adrift. You let whatever happens to you happen to you, and probably chances are, sure, you might be okay if that's the way that you approach the situation, but at the same time, you very well could just like drown immediately. Or you have like a really good like little while, but then like things go bad, after a while, because like you haven't built the skills or the talents or the tools necessary to like survive out there. The other way that you could look at it is like the ocean is your enemy and those waves are your enemy, and you just start like stomping through the waves crashing on the shore to like basically like battle the ocean. And yeah, like you might make it like kind of far out there maybe, if like that's the way you want to look at it, is like your goal is to like defeat the ocean. But like the ocean is always going to win.
Yeah.
You're not stronger than the ocean. You're not stronger than life or the universe. And again, like regardless of how far you get out there, like you're miserable because you're just taking water
Hit
to the
after
face.
hit, yeah.
You're taking wave after wave of whatever the ocean throws at you, and you're standing there and you're gritting your teeth through it, but like what kind of life is that? What kind of experience is that? The other way is to actually like learn how to use the ocean to your favor. The ocean isn't your enemy. Life isn't your enemy. The universe isn't your enemy. It's your friend, and you have to learn how to flow with it. So like you need to let the ocean take you where it wants to take you to some extent, but you also have to learn how to like apply pressure when necessary to ride the wave in the direction that you want to ride it in, and then get eventually to where you ultimately want to go. And I think like that's something that I've learned more and more over the last like few years, is that like the ocean is going to do what it wants with you. The universe is going to do what it wants with you. All you can do is ride the wave effectively. And the more that you try to like fight against it, like sure, you might be able to like withstand those waves for a while, but like how much are you actually enjoying it? And at the same time, of course, like I've never been the kind of person to just like let the ocean do what it wants with me and just like have it carry me away. So like I've never been that person.
Yeah.
But like
Would you say you were
for a long
fighting the
time,
wave?
I was like the fighting the wave guy.
Like when?
Like probably like until like just a few years ago, I was a fighting the wave guy.
Yeah.
And then I realized like, no, this wave is actually like, again, like this thing isn't my enemy. It's my friend. Why am I not just like listening to it, understanding it better, understanding how to work with it, not work against it, or like just again like apply the pressure when it needs to be applied, when it makes sense to apply it to like ride the wave where I want to ride it. So like, and I think more recently, of course, like maybe at some point what was happening is like I was kind of letting the ocean do its thing a little too much, and then maybe I panicked, or
You're saying like the past few weeks?
or like maybe like I don't know, maybe just a few months ago, maybe I
Yeah.
was like letting the ocean like take me away just a little too much, and then like I had to do some stuff where now all of a sudden I'm like fighting the ocean, and like all of a sudden I just start to like panic out there in the ocean because I'm like, oh wait, like where is this taking me? Like where is the ocean taking me? Like I need to like now start fighting the ocean because I don't know where I'm going at this point. And I think that's like,
you were like treading and
yeah,
like just like fight, yeah.
And like I said, like it felt
trying to stay
like
afloat.
I was getting my head above water for a little bit there, but like I didn't have enough to actually like get out of it. And then once I did that mushroom trip last week, it's kind of like I was like, wait. The problem is that I'm fighting the ocean. The problem is like once I just like let the ocean kind of like do its thing a little bit more, and I just start to relax, and then I'm able to like see what the patterns are here. I'm able to now ride these waves a lot more effectively and not be out here like flailing, panicking, and barely keeping my head above water.
Yeah.
So I think that's where. That's how I feel right now, at least. Is like I'm really settling back into like riding those waves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It does. It does.
Cool. I think that's all I got.
That's all you got. Well, I'm happy to see that this week you've been doing better.
Thank you.
Say.
Thank you.
It's nice to see.
And again, thank you for all your help.
Of course.
And I'm sure
That's
there's
what I'm here
and I know because I've been hearing it, there's a lot of other people out there that are very thankful for you and the help that you've been giving them. They've been texting me that, so I know that for a fact.
No, that's
So,
very sweet. But I think.
So good job to you too.
Thanks. Thank you, honey.
Is there anything else that we wanted to say?
I think let's leave it off with that quote.
Yeah.
So I read from a book, Conversations with God, on a podcast a while ago. I'm reading book 2 of Conversations with God. There's 3 books. And the second book, it talks about, again, life and how you perceive the world and just being grateful and present in the moment. And I read this quote to you yesterday, and it just says, enjoy everything, need nothing.
Yep.
And I just think that is an absolutely beautiful quote and just resonates with so much of especially what's going on right now for us.
I definitely agree. It's like the more I can, again, be present and be grateful, that's kind of like what enjoyment is.
Exactly.
Honestly. It's like that's how we like enjoy things like in this material body is to be present, be grateful, be happy with like what you have, and if you can avoid needing anything or being insistent on having anything, then that's how you can like truly be free and happy. And
For sure.
That's certainly like embodies very much of like what I've started to come back and remember in the last few days.
I think, you kind of like really got pulled into like that body experience of like that need, that want, that desire, and it was pulling you away from like actually being connected to source.
Word.
And so now you're there.
I agree.
Now you're back.
Here I am. Back
You're
at
back, baby.
We're back, baby. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. See ya.
Bye-bye.